Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cop Council. How are we all? Hopefully, everyone's having a fantastic day, wherever you are around the world. Welcome back to another Liverpool news episode for you guys this evening. Hopefully, everyone's had a good Thursday, wherever we are around the world. And yeah, we have a bit of news, of course, tonight. Hopefully, again, you guys haven't seen anything as of today, anyway. But of course, we are here to discuss many things. Of course, similar things that we have already spoken about this week, but still a bit of a difference in terms of the news, in terms of again what we will be speaking about. Of course, obviously we'll be speaking about Virgil Van Dijk and Mo Salah. Obviously, is there going to be some positivity? Well, according to a few people, there is some optimism around it. Of course, we'll be speaking about Joel Konza as well. Of course, obviously, last night there was news concerning Newcastle that we will talk about in due course. Of course, Alexander-Isak as well. Again, a few journals today having another say on his potential future. And of course, we will talk more about Trent Alexander-Arnold and, of course, the move to Real Madrid, which, of course, will infuriate a lot of people, myself included, in that anyway. But again, let me know what all of you are in the comments down below as well. Obviously, big thank you to everyone for tuning into last night's show as well with James Pierce. It's very much appreciated as always. Of course, I know there's been plenty of voices heard on that video as well, which again I'm going to go through the comments after this show as well. So again, thank you very much for everybody for tuning in to last night anyway. But big up Hero as well, saying evening, missing seeing the Reds play now. Yeah, same. I want to talk about actual football, not of course all the rumors and the suggestions and that. But I do think it's it's sadly that is going to be the case now, because again we're only going to play once a week in the Premier League. So look, at the minute it is just talking about news and that, but hopefully look, we've got 6 days now until Liverpool play, which hopefully again will defo of course get more talking about football anyway. But again, I want to get back to those days of talking about football. But big up John as well, saying, hi Con, hope you are well. Do you think we have the funds for the signings we need this summer? Yes and no. I do think it is very much the case of, I do think Liverpool might have to sell first, like Darwin Núñez, for example, I think will be a huge selling point, really. I do think Darwin, I think once we do sell him, it will be a conversation then of, who do Liverpool go and get, really. And they'll have an idea, of course, that we don't even know yet, the players that Liverpool want to go for. But I'm confident for it anyway. And pick up Carl saying, I see you got a haircut for James Pierce. Did he like it? Probably not. But to be fair, I went to the barbers yesterday. But yeah, that's a whole different story. Anyway, and to be fair, I needed a haircut. Let's be perfectly honest anyway. But we are going to kickstart the show, of course. We are going to talk about Joel Konza and Newcastle. Of course, last season, we spoke about it last night. To James Pierce, of course, we'll get. Of course, there's going to be a little clips of the show coming up starting tomorrow. Of course, there'll be coming throughout the days. We're most likely going to do it daily, so it's not going to be just a upload throughout a single day. We'll most likely have clips tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, and then obviously taking us up to the week as well. So they will be up in the morning, just in case anybody missed the video as well. But speaking of Joel Konza, and of course there has been some news obviously last night concerning, of course, the Newcastle opportunity, of course, as it does go on to say here, Newcastle United to target Liverpool defender Joel Konza in the summer. Club hope £30 million bid plus add-ons, as well as regular first-team role, would entice the 22-year-old centre-back to join St James's Park. And of course, that is a story from the Times as well, which, again, looking at it last night, just briefly before we came on, the news came out that they were very, very interested in him, of course, but there was no official word really in terms of how much they would want to potentially buy him for. Now, last season, Newcastle and Liverpool both saw Joel Konza as a £50 million signing. And I think one thing for Liverpool, and I do think it's an interesting point as well, because Liverpool last season valued Joel Konza around £50 million. Obviously, since then, he's not been in Liverpool's team, a common starter then. He's been very much a squad player, hasn't he, this season? Comparing from this time last year, he was playing and starting, I think it was around like 29 league games at this time last season. This time round, he's only played or started 9 games in the Premier League. Of course, most of them now at right back, because again, Liverpool don't have a right back. But also that sense, just on a Liverpool point of view, is of course, when you look at the England setup and you have a look at the moment, he's currently ahead of Jared Branthwaite, who again is valued around £60 million, obviously pushing on towards £80 million, really. And I think for Liverpool, I think you are talking about that type of price point, really, between 50 and 60. If you're actually looking at the market and looking at, again, what Liverpool would probably want for him, again, I do think it's very much an interesting scenario, because again, should Liverpool realistically be getting rid of Joel Konza? No, I don't think so. Look, it's quite clear that Arne Slot, it looks like he's not in his plans, which again will obviously cause conversation there. But I do think it's very much the case of Liverpool would be asking quite similar, or of course, is it something to do with, again, could there be a part of a deal, for example? We're going to talk about Isak later, but could that be a possibility? And again, it's very rare that we do see deals like that happen, certainly towards Premier League teams as well. But again, if Newcastle want him that badly, and again, we want Isak that badly, could there be some sort of bargain in there where Liverpool could offer money and Joel Konza, or vice versa, really, of course. But we'll have to wait and see in the summer. I don't personally think we're going to sell him in the summer. I do think we're going to loan him out and get him proper first team football. But again, that does depend on what else we do with the squad, because we could end up needing him depending on players that do leave the club, really. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. I'm very intrigued to know your guys' thoughts, because for me, I think Joel Konza, again, I would keep him personally. I wouldn't sell him, for me anyway. But again, we'll have to wait and see. But he's a good. Apologies, I didn't read out Cal's comment. Need Konza as a squad player. I would agree. He's a good player to keep, in my opinion, as his hero. I would agree. That's what happens when the team keeps winning and the guy ahead of you isn't injured. True, that's very, very true. As well, Connor, can you be Liverpool's Welsh wizard? No, I'm not quick enough to be Gareth Bale at all. And plus, I've always played in midfield whenever I played football. So yeah, I'd be no luck for you, Cal, unfortunately. Anyway, but I do think it is interesting though when you look at Newcastle's defenders. Of course, obviously they've had a bit of an issue there, haven't they, really, in terms of Sven Botman. Could you class Sven Botman now as injury prone? I'd probably say yes, considering again his age and considering again the type of injuries that he does keep on having and occurring. I do think Liverpool would very much, again, last summer there was conversations there with Joe Gomez, Joel Konza as well. So there clearly is some interest there in terms of Newcastle, but either Joel Konza or even a Joe Gomez. I'd be very surprised if Joe Gomez was to stay at Liverpool. I think out of the two, personally, I do probably see Konza staying more than Joe Gomez. But I do think it is a very interesting point of view, isn't it? I do think it's very much the sense of we'll definitely see something coming up in the next couple of weeks, of course. But again, I'd be very, very surprised. Jesus Christ, Conrad, no, absolutely not. Anyway, but Red Rebellion as well, good seeing you, saying apparently Isak has rejected a contract extension at Newcastle. Very intrigued to know if that's true as well. We'll check if there is any news on that type of thing. But yeah, even still, like I think if the Isak stuff is going to even entertain or be a part of it, then I do think we will definitely see something coming up in the next couple of weeks, whether or not, with Konza and that. I know obviously James Pearce last night spoke about it and said, again, he thinks Joel Konza is in Arne Slot's plans, which, I kind of disagreed a little bit because, again, you look at the amount of games he's played with him this season. I don't think, again, he's really in his thought process, or again, he may just be, potentially changing a few things with his playing style, and then we'll start to see potentially, the best version of Joel Konza. But again, that's just, speculation really, of course. But again, we'll have to wait and see anyway. But we'll get on then, and we'll talk. Actually, let me get to your comments before we do move on. But what have we got? Isaac will wait for Barca to clear up their problem and go there. I don't think so. I think it does depend on what happens this season. I do believe that. I do think if Newcastle get Champions League football, there's no chance that anybody's going to get him, because why would he want to leave? He's going to get Champions League football. They've just won a cup as well, which I think is huge, as well, because that is a good positive sign. If Liverpool had won the cup final and then they don't get Champions League, then I'd say 100% he's going to leave Newcastle. But the fact that they've won the cup and probably look most likely to get Champions League football, that's, us saying that, Liverpool could offer, £120 million. That's not going to get them out of Newcastle, especially when they've got Champions League football, because A, they don't need to sell, and B, again, they may go, look, we want 150, and they've got every right of being, stubborn in that way of getting the 150, because look, Isaac is so important to them. That's like if somebody come in and bid 150 for or 120 for Mo Salah, and we went, no, we want 150. Then I don't think we'd accept that either way. But you guys know what I mean. But big up Damo as well, says makes sense to keep Konza in the squad next season and see how he progresses, especially given there is probably going to be a lot of incoming comings and goings in the summer, unless he's not in Slot's plans. And I think that's the only reason why we might not see him at Liverpool next season, is that, of course, the reports are suggesting that, again, he's in Arne Slot's plans. And maybe we, again, like we've kind of seen with other players this season, where they've kind of been taken out of the team and then they've been reintroduced and they've been better off because of it. Whether or not, again, Arne Slot might want him to, again, go on loan next season, again, we're not too sure at the present moment in time. But I personally would think, if everything goes right this summer, I do think Joel Konza will be on loan. I don't think we're going to sell him. I'd be surprised if we sold him as well. But again, the other thing to take into consideration is, of course, the English quota as well. I think that's something as well that Liverpool might think upon on whether or not trying to get rid of him. But again, I'd say out of the two, I think Joe Gomez is going to leave Liverpool, and then we'll look for someone to bring back in, because realistically, Joe Gomez is, wasn't even used as a fullback, was he, at times? Again, he was being brought in at centre-back, to replace Ibu. So Liverpool might look at that and go, yeah, we might need another centre-half, really. Because I think, if everything went to plan this summer, I wouldn't be too surprised if Liverpool signed two centre-halves, really. A left-sided one and a right-sided one, really, to be the backups. Because you look at the injury, Ibu has been very good this season in terms of injuries, but I do think it's also that sense of, again, look at how limited we are at the minute, because we're having to play Joel Konza at right back. We're having, then you look at it, no centre halves really. Now we're realistically, Wataru Endo is the backup, really, isn't he, for Ibu Konate, which isn't ideal, but that's the position we're in at the moment as well, which again is not great. Let's be perfectly honest as well. But Carl says Alisson. Oh, this is his team for next season. Alisson, Bradley, Konate, Van Dijk, Kirkes, Baliba, Gravenberch, Maka, Gordon, Sesko, and Salah. Sesko, yeah. I'm apart from Football Manager, I'm not keen on Sesko. I think Sesko is very much one of these players that, again, potential is there, but in terms of nailed down what you can see in front of you, I don't know. I don't like it, really. But again, I've not really seen much of him. The parts I have seen of him, I'm not being too much of a fan of him. But of course, on Football Manager, he's amazing. So again, if he could be that player on Football Manager, then again, absolutely amazing. Anyway, but moving on. I'm going to talk about Alexander Isak. Of course, again, same type of conversations happening. Of course, it is taken from Anfield sector. This is, of course, from Fabrizio Romano, as you guys can see on screen right now. Again, him saying on Gippy Sport, saying that I expect important proposals to arrive from Liverpool and Arsenal for Alexander Isak. Now, again, what are these proposals are we talking about? Are we talking, again, financial ones in terms of, again, contract-wise, or are we talking about specifically, if I get the words out, if we talk about, again, pricing, in terms of a transfer fee? Because, again, it's all circumstantial at the minute, isn't it? Because, again, we don't know where Newcastle are going to finish. And that's the big problem at the moment, is we don't know where Newcastle are going to finish. We don't know if they're going to finish in the Champions League spots, Europa League spots. I do think if Liverpool, out of the two, where would he go, or where would he want to go? Would he want to play for the Premier League champions, or does he want to play for a team that's fighting for the Premier League? Really, I look at it, me personally, and I would say, out of the two, he's going to be the main man either way, isn't he? He's the main man at the minute at Newcastle, and he's absolutely boss in the league, and he is absolutely. But I don't know. For me, I would think he would join Liverpool over Arsenal. Of course, biased in that, but even still, it's going to cost one of the both teams 100+ million. But again, unlike Arsenal, Liverpool have that bargaining of, again, Newcastle want Liverpool players. Again, Konza, Gomez. You could potentially offer Diogo Jota in that conversation as well. Of course, I think there was a report from, was it Alex Cook as well, as claiming that Liverpool could offer 2 players, as well as money for Isak. I'd be surprised if it was 2. I'm not going to lie, I would be very surprised if it was 2 players. But even still, I do think it's an interesting one. And do I think Liverpool will push for Isak? 100% I do. If there's any inkling that he would join the club, I think 100% we'd go all in for him. But it's that sense again of, can Liverpool afford him? And can Liverpool push for him? I think yes. I think, of course, Liverpool could absolutely do that. But it's also that sense of, is there too much with the squad that needs doing that we can, push that extra much? I think the money for Darwin Núñez will be a big thing, really. Like, again, if Liverpool can offload Darwin Núñez for £70 million, that then takes the burden down, really. Again, if you're going to sign somebody like Alexander Isak for 120, go and shove 50 million then on top of that, then again, that's then sound, really. But it all depends on the sale, really, doesn't it? It all depends whether or not we can get that for Darwin Núñez, and whether or not the Saudis would come back in for him. I think they will come back in for him. And I do think his mind is already turned. But I think in terms of Isak, we won't know until the end of the season, really. And that, again, Liverpool have to prepare for that. And for me, I don't want us to, kind of like what we was last year, kind of with Zubimendi, where, for 2 weeks, really, wasn't it? We were, chasing him down and trying to get the deal sorted. And then, of course, it didn't go through. I don't want that being the same in the summer. I want Liverpool to be very proactive in the summer, to go full in. If you're not going to get him, okay, sound, we'll go to the next target. We're not lurking around, and trying to convince players to join Liverpool. I'm like, look, it's Liverpool Football Club. You're going to come, if you want to come and play for us, again, you go towards them. And look, that's for me anyway, of course. But again, we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, but again, let me know your guys' thoughts. If it's not Alexander Isak, because again, we're going to do videos on it, of course, coming up. But if it's not Alexander Isak, who would you like it to be? I know Cal's already mentioned Sesko. again, I know plenty of people. I've mentioned Hugo Nkita as well. He's the baby version of Alexander Isak. But yeah, let me know if there's any other strikers you'd want. If Liverpool couldn't get Alexander Isak in the summer, excuse me, I always have hiccups when I'm talking. I don't want Sesko, but I don't know who do we sign out. There we go. Apologies, Cal. But Gomez is homegrown, so we will have to replace him with a homegrown player. Clubs are allowed to register a maximum of 17 non-homegrown players, foreign players, and max 8 homegrown. I don't know whether or not. Who is there that could be registered for homegrown? The Liverpool squad. I don't know whether or not. I'm trying to think who it is. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but again, it will be interesting when again Liverpool. Liverpool would have to. This way, I think with Joel Konza, we're not going to sell both of them. Like I think we'll keep one, especially for the English quota, but give Newcastle Jota and Gomez and try and get Gordon and Isak. I don't think we can get both of them. That's like 200 plus alone, let alone anything else, especially because of because of the Gordon's new contract and so on as well. There's no chance that's going to happen anyway. But the big up Bryce, all of you doing well, saying hi Con, hope you're well. Very good, thank you, mate. Isak will have to push. Isak will have to push for the move. Yeah, I would agree with that in some sense. I think he'd have to do it a little bit, wouldn't he? To be fair. But Gordon would have joined us last season if Newcastle did not end up pulling out of the deal, and then they sold Minter and Elliott instead for PSR. Yeah, exactly, 100%. And we know this for a fact. To be fair, again, we broke the news, didn't we, last year about Joe Gomez being a part of the deal and so on as well. But it's kind of that same sense of, I do think Liverpool would have sold Luis Diaz as well last summer to add to that as well. I know obviously Anthony Gordon would have come in at that position, but I do think Liverpool would have sold Luis Diaz as well. This is why I think this year, does now, and again, we'll talk about it now in a moment, but does the Trent stuff now affect Liverpool's planning towards that? Because, we do need to sign a right back now. It's not the fact that we can just sit back and go, oh yeah, no, it's fine. It's totally fine. But for me, I don't think we can do that really. I would be very surprised if that was the case. But I know I think it was David Ornstein earlier on mentioned that, again, the right back position is now a thought process, but it's not as huge as what the left back position is for Liverpool, because again, we've been looking at that position now for over 12 months, to try and replace Andy Robertson. But now Liverpool have a gaping hole at right back, for example, as well. So I'd be very, very intrigued to know what happened or what will happen in that position anyway. But I expect Liverpool to spend huge this summer. I wouldn't be too surprised if I think Liverpool's net spend will be around £90 million, maybe even £100 million. But I do think we will facilitate in terms of, again, Liverpool in terms of, transfer fees. I think we'll spend probably like 300 million this summer, and then can we recoup like £200 million worth of players? Yeah, I think we could. I think the sale of Darwin Núñez, the sale of Luis Diaz, Kelleher as well. Whether or not if we end up selling an Endo or Harvey in midfield, that'll be another interesting point as well. But I'd be very intrigued to see what we do in the summer. I think it's such a huge summer for Liverpool. It's gigantic, and of course we'll be here every step of the way for every bit of news that does come out anyway. But yeah, I would agree with you. But they're rebellion as well. But Bryce says, please God, we sell him this year. Diaz is massively overrated in my opinion. 0 goals in 2025. Yeah, I think he does have one, I think, to be fair. bribe. But no, I absolutely agree with it. Liverpool need to move on. We need to upgrade upon him. Absolutely. I always wanted Gordon when he was at the Ev. Can't lie, it was like the Dele Alli. A bit jealous as well. I think Anthony Gordon's a very good player. I think he does have a higher ceiling than Louis Diaz, because again, Anthony Gordon's what, 23? I think probably even younger than that. But I think Liverpool need to look at the market, in general, because again, you've got players like Nico Williams is around. You've got you got him. You've got Anthony Gordon, who Liverpool could go back for. I know there's been people talking about Rafael Leao. I don't think you can get him out of Milan really. But in also saying that, we talk about Liverpool taking opportunity signings. Milan, I think, are what, are they 8th in Serie A at the minute, or near enough that, and it looks like they're not going to get Champions League football, so they might particularly need funds, to be fair. But even still, like, the market, it is a rare thing again. But the worst point about it is, right, even though the club, I would say, like, the year that we've had, like, the one transfer window that I think we had a good window was the midfield rebuilds in recent times, and that is the one that I look at and go, yeah, that's the transfer window where it was a outstanding window really in hindsight. But when you look at Liverpool's transfer windows probably since we signed Luis Diaz in that January transfer window, in the summer, I think we signed. I think we brought in Ibu, didn't we? I think that was the big signing for Liverpool in that summer. But since then, we haven't really hit the ground in terms of signings. I don't think we have anyway. Again, Darwin Núñez. I was a big advocate for Darwin Núñez to sign for Liverpool and to go on and do amazing things. I'd happily admit I got it wrong. For me, I think Darwin, he just never hit the ground running, did he? We never saw that Benfica Darwin Núñez, and that that is annoying a little bit. But even still, like, I don't think we've had a better window than that, really. But again, this summer is huge. Absolutely, it is. But yeah, Gordon's 24. Tsimikas, Diaz, Núñez, Endo can all go. There's 4 non-home growth spots opened for those. For that case, so I think Endo will stay out of them lot. I think keeping Endo would be a good thing. Don't think it'd be a bad thing really. But again, we'd have to wait and see. But got to go do a show. Got to go and do a show. Have a good one, mate. Well, big up, Bri. Hope you're doing well. Anyway, thank you for popping in as well. But yeah, I do think it was an interesting case. Anyway, but let's talk about the rat next then. Let's talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold, the absolute rat that he is, as well. Which again, that's just my personal opinion, to be fair. But of course, according to Fabrizio Romano, as you guys can see below, there we go. So it does go on to say, of course, that Real Madrid have already started exchanging official documents for Trent Alexander-Arnold signing. Liverpool will be informed when it is closed. So yeah, again, we're gonna constantly get these types of updates now until it's official. Really, I think it will be official very soon. I would think, because I think Real Madrid's plan, or their potential plan, is to try and ask Liverpool to release him early. And we spoke about it last night with James Pierce, of course. And speaking about like how could Real Madrid kind of get that through? Of course, they could obviously bid for him, because there is going to be a transfer window, or mini transfer window, they've called it, of course, before the Club World Cup starts. So Liverpool could still get money for Trent. But it's that sense of, again, Real Madrid, I think, will probably just wait. But even still, Liverpool could sell him, and again, how much could they sell he'd be out of contract pretty much, like 3 weeks. later. Could they end up selling him for anything? Like pretty much nothing, isn't it? But again, would Liverpool even entertain that? Probably. Again, I think if Liverpool could get 10, 20 million for somebody who's going to definitely leave the club, then do it. I don't give a crap anymore, because I'm very intrigued to know what the reaction will be to him. Because I think a lot of us have had the same idea of Trent. For me, I think Trent's season's done either way. I don't think he'll play for Liverpool again. I think the injury that he did pick up against PSG, I think that's done. That's him now for the season, done. But I do think, and I look at it and go, what is the reaction going to be? We've seen it in the past where, teams, we've especially given players a standing ovation for the last game of the season. And, when you think about it, the last game of the season is when Liverpool are potentially going to lift the Premier League trophy. And it's going to be this big, positive feeling, amazing feeling that Liverpool are going to win, another league title, our second in the last 5 years. And then you've got the thought process of him walking around Anfield with the Premier League and already thinking about, he's going to go to Madrid. And it's going to be on the worst terms possible, because other players have left and other players have known they're going to leave. Bobby Firmino, Sadio Mane, I think, is another example of everybody knew Sadio was going 6 months before he did go. But there was no real conversation around it until after the Champions League final. There was none. And now we're sat here with 9 games to go, and this is all we're talking about. We're talking about Trent to Real Madrid. How can Liverpool replace Trent? How can Liverpool do this without Trent? It's all we're talking about. And again, people will debate and differ from my opinion, and of course everyone has a right to do that. But the fact that, again, the league's not done, and I don't want that being a distraction. And I think everybody has the same thought process of, if he does become fit for any point of the rest of the season, do you play him? And I think, I do think Liverpool will win the league before he's back. And then the question is, do you play him? And I don't think you do, personally. I really don't. Because, again, if he has a bad performance against any team that might cost Liverpool, it will be toxic wherever it is, away from home or even at Anfield. There will be, it'll be toxic, a toxic environment, really. But we don't have a big turnover on players like other clubs. Clubs like Forest and Chelsea sell and buy players like it goes out of fashion. Yeah, very, very true. Corner taken quickly by Robertson and Origi. Yeah. I do feel I have loved the was it somebody changed it to Conor Bradley as well, which I found was quite funny. Chelsea have made more revenue on player sales over the last 10 years than any club in Europe. Our recruitment is pretty good when it comes to flops and free success. Yeah, that is true. But I do think over the last couple of summers we've had poor windows. I think certainly the summer that we signed Darwin Núñez, again, getting Darwin Núñez in, Fabio Carvalho, that wasn't really a good move in the end, even though, again, I think everybody had the same thought at the time that, again, he could become something really good for Liverpool, but again, it just wasn't to be. And of course, Arthur Melo, how could we forget Arthur Melo? But Trent's injury come at the right time for him. I doubt he will play for us again. Yeah, absolutely agree, mate. Again, I can't signal that anymore, to be fair. But talking about the two that there is some optimism with, and of course, it is Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah. Now, according to, I believe it's David Ornstein this time round. There we go. Let me quickly get up his report on it. Anyway, there we go. So what is said anyway, so David Ornstein on Salah and Van Dijk, as you guys can see on screen right now. He does go on to say that Liverpool are optimistic both will renew their contracts and that it's just a matter of time until it's done. we can't say for certain, and it would appear that there is still work to do. There has been nothing so far to suggest Liverpool's confidence has changed on these two, which again, I think now more than ever, it's inevitable that both will resign. They have to resign. It's not a case of like, oh, maybes anymore. This is just now pure, it has to happen for me, because all right, Trent going, he's ran down his contract himself. He's decided to do that, but for Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk, they both have clearly said all season they want to re-sign. There's been no conversation of them going elsewhere. Of course, I know there's people talking about PSG for Virgil, but even still, there is a clear indication that both want to stay, very much so. And look, they want to stay at the club and fight for the club, unlike some people, which again, look at for me, again, that puts them ahead of everyone else. And as well, you're probably, if you re-sign both of them, you're probably looking at your captain and your vice captain for next season, because obviously taking Trent away from the vice captaincy, give it to Mo Salah. And then obviously then you're going to have somebody else being put into the leadership group, because you're going to have to, really, aren't you? Because Trent's going to be going. So that'll be interesting. So you're possibly already making your next club captain or vice captain when these two do leave the football club, which will hopefully be in a few more years' time as well. But one thing as well that did come out as well from Egypt, I should say as well, of course, this was a few hours ago, saying that breaking Mo Salah's renewal with Liverpool is more advanced than ever before, after Liverpool made a higher offer. Of course, reports coming from Egypt as well. I believe it is from a high-sourced Egypt outlet. So again, hopefully, we will hear some more positive news in the next couple of weeks about these two, because again, it has to be, and I think everybody is in the same agreement that, look, we need to get Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk done, because again, I think then Liverpool need to realistically, then they have to start thinking then for the future. Again, you're possibly going to give these two 2-year contracts, possibly an extra year in terms of, we'll give you 2 years now, but again, there's an extra year potentially as well. Again, Virgil van Dijk then would be around 35, 36. Mo Salah would be around 34. You then probably expect them then to leave the football club. But then in also saying that, mind, Liverpool then have time to now look, now you've got the data people back at Liverpool, or of course the people who do, add the data towards players. You then should be able to replace Virgil van Dijk. You should be able to replace Mo Salah. And of course, it's difficult to do that. Possibly, even with Mo, you have to possibly add 2 players to that position because of the output that's going to be missing. But if Liverpool could add or keep Virgil van Dijk and keep Mo Salah, while then you're adding, a new right back potentially, again, that can still add creativeness to the team. You add then a left back, you add Alexander-Isak, you add, a left winger who can actually score, alongside Cody Gakpo. That then adds then to the, more accountability then and more goals towards, Liverpool. Because again, Liverpool are up there with one of the most attacking teams in Europe. But you wouldn't say that because, again, apart from Mo Salah, the rest of them have been pretty poor. Apart from, to be fair, I would also take out Cody Gakpo in that sense as well. But again, that's something that we can improve on as well. And plus, with Trent going, you have the opportunity to get a right back who, again, is an all-rounder. Again, you've got Conor Bradley there, but I think it will be interesting whether or not Liverpool sign a player that's going to start above Conor Bradley, or whether or not they're going to have somebody who would be the understudy and then will progress then to be the right back for the future as well, which could be interesting. But Coutinho did the same against Man City in 2018. Jan got injury, then went for 142 million. Yeah, true. Or was it the back injury as well? Rebellion says the length of their contracts is the main sticking point. Salah is 33 this year and Virgil's 34. I think Mo's 31, isn't he? I don't think he's 34. 33, sorry. We can't hold on to them forever. 1 year plus option for another year is what I think will be on the table. I think for me, I would agree. I think that the big sticking point, I think, is the years. But then again, with Mo, I think it's different. I think Liverpool very much expected Mo to have kind of a fall off season. Like I did think Mo, like personally, I think they expected Mo to have a fall off. You know, look at last season, look how Mo performed. It wasn't great, was it? It wasn't like like it is this season. It wasn't a career season, you know, an all-time season. And we ended up again kind of that crossroads of, you know, do you get rid of him now, or do you, you know, again, do you keep him for another year? We decided to keep him, wanting to renew the deal. Liverpool, I think, had the idea of, oh, you know, maybe we can, you know, reduce terms because, again, Mo not having, you know, maybe was the start of his decline. And then he goes on and has an all-timer season, which then you're asking the question of, you know, how much does Mo Salah want, really? Because anything he says, you can't argue against it, really, because he's had the 7 years of success, you know, in terms of the numbers and everything else. And then you look at this season where he's become even better, which is, you know, maddening to say, really. And I think that's something as well where I look at it and go, you know, wow, you know, for a player of his age and his caliber, normally players dip, but, you know, he kind of has that Ronaldo vibe of, again, at this age, he'll still progress even more. Of course, obviously the latter years, of course, obviously will be, you know, declining slowly. But even still, you know, the mentality on Mo Salah is special as well. But yeah, Salah's 33. Is he really? I thought. Why did I think he was 31? For some mad reason. I do apologize, but yeah, even still, like for a 33-year-old, he's you know, absolutely bossing it at the minute anyway. But I do think they will, because I took that off and not the comment. But yeah, I do think I'm optimistic with these two, and I've been optimistic throughout the season that both will sign. It's Trent has been the one that I think all of us have said for a long time that, again, it's most likely he is going to go to Real Madrid. But I think it's just the fashion of that it's happened, I think, has changed a lot of people's minds about Trent. Like, again, like, and I think we've all said it, if the club was messing the players around, then, you know, we'd have a go at the club. We'd blame the club. I think some people are already doing that anyway. I do think it's rightfully so with some parts of it. But if the rumours are true that Liverpool have offered Trent, you know, £320,000 per week, making him the highest paid English player in the Premier League, and then he's rejected that to then go and get a smaller, I say smaller, but, you know, £220,000 per week at Madrid, and having that massive sign-on bonus, then yeah, for me, rat behavior, really, to be fair. But again, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Of course, if you are watching on the repeat as well, then do let me know your guys' thoughts anyway. But look, we'll be back tomorrow. We're going to do a special video tomorrow. We're going to have a look at replacements for Trent if there isn't any news that does come out. We will be talking about that tomorrow. So again, make sure you're tuned in 8 or 9 p.m. Tomorrow as usual. But yeah, like I said, if there's anything you guys have seen in the news, of course, do leave a comment down below as well. Of course, we are on the road to 2K as well. So if you are new around here, of course, please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well. And of course, you know, if you keep your eyes out for tomorrow morning, it should be. Of course, we'll be doing a video, of course, clips now of course, the James Pierce interview as well. That will be coming out on the channel over the next couple of days anyway. But big up Damo, big up Red Rebellion, big up everybody in the chat as well anyway. But yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow for another episode anyway. But yeah, if you haven't already, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. I'll see you later. Ta-ra.